You know that feeling, right? That little pang of dread when the check engine light suddenly clicks on? Well, today, we're going to take the mystery out of one of the most common codes you might see, P0299. So there it is, the light is on, you pull the code, and it says P0299. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but stick with me. We're going to break down exactly what your car is trying to tell you, in plain English. All right, first things first, what in the world is P0299? The official term is an underboost condition. Basically, your car's brain, the computer, has realized that the turbo just isn't putting out the power it's supposed to. At its heart, this code means the engine's computer is asking for a specific amount of air pressure from the turbo, that boost, but it's just not getting it. The actual boost is falling way short of what's being requested. And what does that actually feel like when you're driving? It feels sluggish, right? Like the car's just tired. You put your foot down and nothing. That's because the turbo isn't cramming that extra air into the engine to give you that get up and go. So, to figure out what's gone wrong, it really helps to know how this whole system is supposed to work in the first place. And honestly, it's a pretty brilliant piece of engineering. Okay, check this out. It's all about recycling wasted energy. Your engine's hot exhaust gas, instead of just going out the tailpipe, spins a little fan called a turbine. That turbine is connected to another fan that sucks in fresh air and compresses it. But when you compress air, it gets hot. That's just physics. So it's sent through an intercooler, which is just a little radiator for the air. Why do that? Because cool air is way denser, meaning you can pack more of it into the engine. And more air means you can add more fuel, and that equals more power. Now, there's a really critical part in this whole system called the wastegate. You see, you can't just let that turbo spin faster and faster without any control. The wastegate is a little bypass valve. It opens up to let some of that exhaust gas sneak around the turbo, which slows it down and keeps it from making too much boost. This little guy is a super common source of problems. All right, so now that we've got the basics down, let's get into the real detective work. What are the most common things that cause a P0299 code? And I'll give you a hint. A lot of the time, it's actually not the expensive turbo itself. So, if it's not the turbo, then what is it? Well, the answer is usually much simpler and, thankfully, a whole lot cheaper to fix. By a country mile, the #1 cause is a boost leak. Think about it. The turbo did all this work to compress the air, but then that air is just escaping out of a crack or loose connection before it can ever make it to the engine. The whole system is losing pressure. And these leaks can pop up just about anywhere. We're talking about rubber hoses that have gotten old and brittle from heat and have cracked. It could be a simple hose clamp that's just vibrated loose over time. Maybe a rock flew up and put a tiny pinhole in the intercooler. It could even be a bad gasket. Basically, any place where two parts connect is a suspect. Okay, so what if the air isn't leaking out? Well, maybe it can't get in to begin with. A blockage, either on the air intake side or the exhaust side, will absolutely choke the system and prevent it from building boost. Seriously, just imagine trying to run a sprint while breathing through a tiny coffee straw. That's exactly what a filthy, clogged air filter is doing to your turbo. And on the other end, a blocked-up catalytic converter is like trying to exhale through a pinched hose. Neither one is going to let that turbo spin freely and do its job. So, let's say you hunted for leaks, you've checked for blockages, and you're still getting that code. Okay, now it's time to dig a little deeper and look at the parts that actually control this whole process. Here are two other major culprits. Remember that wastegate? Well, it can get stuck wide open, which means it's constantly letting exhaust bypass the turbo, so it never gets a chance to spin up properly. Or it could be the boost sensor itself. That sensor could just be faulty, basically lying to the car's computer, telling it the boost is low when it's actually perfectly fine. And believe me, the list keeps going. You could have a faulty diverter valve that's not holding pressure. An EGR valve that's stuck open can act like a massive boost leak. Even something like low engine oil pressure can starve the turbo's bearings for oil, causing it to slow down. And yes, of course, sometimes it is the turbo itself that's just worn out. Whew, with all those possibilities, where on earth do you even start? The absolute key is to have a logical, step-by-step plan. Don't just start throwing parts at it. And this right here is probably the most important thing to remember. Following a smart diagnostic order can literally save you from spending a ton of money on a turbo you didn't even need. You really don't want to be that person who replaces a turbo when the real problem was a clamp that just needed to be tightened. So here's your game plan. 1. Start with leaks. Always. They're the most common cause, and they're often the cheapest to fix. 2, if you find no leaks, then move on to the components. Make sure that wastegate is moving freely and test the sensors. 3, check for those restrictions we talked about. Pull out the air filter, check the exhaust. And 4, and only after you've done all that, do you finally inspect the turbo itself. So think about it. Could a $10 part really save you from a $1,000 repair bill? When it comes to the P0299 code, the answer is absolutely yes. It's all about working smart, not just hard, and remembering that with this code, the simplest answer is very often the right one.